Today, we are going to be talking about Smurfs, The Lost Village, and Going in Style. In addition to that, I'm going to be giving my follow-up on the movie Life, so stay tuned.
Welcome to The Real Review.
Welcome to The Real Review, sponsored by Parametric and Lazy Ape Studios, where you get some of the latest happenings, real thoughts, and perspectives in the world of film and television. And today I am here with Mr. Joel wishes April would just have her baby giraffe already, Cunningham. And who am I today, Joel?
Well, before that, let me just say, I have not watched that. Are you watching the stream?
It shows up no, I'm not watching it. It just shows up in my feed every 30 seconds. Yeah.
I've seen it like 15 times. I've had 15 people ask me, but geez, I haven't had a chance to. But today I'm here with Matt, 100 calories or less, hey.
Yes.
Which is due to our Red Vine package we have sitting here right on the table.
Unofficially sponsored by Red Vines and LaCroix.
And LaCroix.
That's not how you say it, but I like saying LaCroix.
I like that. I like that a lot. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about these films.
I know you are.
Which is surprising because if people listened to our Coming Soon last week, we were not
excited, right?
Yeah, so...
Yeah, so that is good to know because I did not think you'd be excited to talk about these things. So, if you're new to the show, just to kind of give you a quick rundown, this is really kind of where the fans and the critics' perspective collide. Mm-hmm. So, critics, you're going to get people that are like really nitpicky, maybe negative towards film, really looking for something really cinematically incredible.
Yeah.
So I'd put Joel in that section.
That's me.
On the fan side, you're just going to mostly get people who are maybe just wanting to be entertained.
Yeah.
Maybe connect with a couple characters or a couple of events in a film, and not necessarily looking at all the little critical nitpicky parts of the film, and that probably represents me a little bit more.
Yeah,
well, I do appreciate it. Appreciate the
you can get detailed too.
Yeah, I can get into the films. Totally get into the deets, but
all the intellectualizing and stuff.
Right. But that's how it works, and so we try to give you a good blend of both of those perspectives. In addition to that, if you want to get a hold of us, we are very active on the social media interwebs of the cinematic internet universe. Mm-hmm. That's not really a thing, but I'm going to make it a thing.
We're turning it into a universe.
Cinematic
Everything else is these days.
Internet universe of social medias.
Very good.
Anyway, so you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Real Review Media. We're posting stuff on there. We have our website, realreviewmedia.com, and then you can email us with questions or insights or anything like that at realreviewmedia@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And that's how you can do that.
Very awesome. You know the other thing we do really well?
What's up?
We, as reviewers, I feel like, and this is what I was talking about this earlier, I feel like all the other reviewers out there, for the most part, are like yay or nay on films.
Yeah.
And we're good. We do good with that kind of like, hey, we're going to tell you what's good, we're going to tell you what's bad.
Yeah.
And I like that about us.
I totally like that about us.
Especially like that about you, Matt.
Why, thanks, Joel.
Yeah, and the other thing we also do very, very well is we get right into it.
So. Yes, we get right into it. And so with that, we're going to get into Joel's favorite movie of the year so far, which is...
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Which is Smurfs, The Lost Village. Why don't you go ahead and kick us off on that one, Joel?
Oh, wow. Okay, so Smurfs, The Lost Village is a film that was released this weekend. It is about it's an all-new take, as they're calling it, on the Smurfs. I think it's more of I did some research on this. It's kind of a reboot of sorts.
Prequel to the Blue Man Group.
Yes, there you go. Exactly. It is a remake of sorts because the last Smurfs movies had actually had some live action
with
elements
Doogie Howser.
To them with Doogie Howser and everything like that. This is the first one that was fully animated, and so a lot of people are saying it's kind of like a reboot. It's also a reboot in regards to the story and some of the voice acting. It's about a mysterious map that sets Smurfette and her friends Brainy, Clumsy, and Hefty on an exciting race through the Forbidden Forest, leading to the discovery of the biggest secret in Smurf history.
I love how you can barely get through that without giggling.
It's just so ridiculous, but it's awesome. So it has the voice acting of a number of people. It has Demi Lovato as Smurfette, Rainn Wilson as Gargamel, sorry, almost butchered that. Yeah, Jack McBrayer as Clumsy, Danny Pooty, who is from one of my favorite shows, Community.
Yeah.
He did a great job there.
Abed.
Yeah, and then you got Mandy Patinkin from Papa Smurf, and you've got Joe Manganiello from who's Hefty Smurf, which I really feel like is a miscasting of names or a misnaming. I understand it's probably with the cartoon, but he's not really hefty. He's more bulky. He's a buff guy.
Yeah.
When you think hefty, you think kind of like that.
Maybe they just couldn't do Meathead Smurf or something.
Well, okay, so let me get into my review of this one right here. So, we mentioned that Matt and I had talked about this in the Coming Soon episode. I had a very low threshold of expectation for this. I was not expecting a whole lot from it because it just really, it's not my bag of tea. It seemed very like, they're just trying to spin off all these different sequels, and all of a sudden you're laughing at my bag of tea.
Bag of tea, yeah.
It's not my bag of tea. And so I didn't have very high expectations from this, and I think the amount of people that were in the theater was also a good indication of probably the general population's excitement for this type of movie coming out. But overall, I was actually very much impressed with it. Didn't feel like they were trying to do anything pandery.
Okay.
It didn't feel like they were just kind of trying to spit out another Smurfs film. It really felt like they were trying to sort of honor or go with the original idea and concept behind the Smurf films, which I think, I don't know if that was present in the last two Smurf films. I haven't seen it.
I haven't seen them either.
Yeah, but it really felt like they were actually trying to do something that was like a bit original, more so. Like with the Smurfs and the Smurf story, you're going on this venture with Smurfette and the, hidden forest and all this other stuff. That I also thought the animation was decent.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was bad. I thought it was good. It was serviceable. And the other big thing is I think there was, I can't say it was a funny movie. The humor was, I would say, more of like a little kid kind of elementary school would probably laugh at a lot, especially a lot of the physical humor with
the
like,
slapstick stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's, the one scene where they're all getting munched on by the flowers and the one guy's like screaming.
Yeah.
And the part where they're freaking out in the cave and the one where he gets hit in the groin. And, you got all that kind of classic kind of kid type humor stuff. The moments that I actually found kind of like that I kind of laughed about and giggled at the most were were the moments really about the characters interacting with each other, because I think they did do a decent enough job with creating understandable, relatable characters. So the characters had a distinct feel and personality to all of them.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, even all the random ones that you meet later on in like the Hidden Village, all the Smurfette girls, the girl Smurfs. I don't know if they're Smurfettes. Spoilers. But I mean, that's so all over the preview. But they all seem to have their own. Michelle Rodriguez is the independent, like strong-willed girl that fights and kills everything in front of her, and she had a strong, good personality as well. So I enjoyed that, and I think the humor really came in the interaction between the two. The people, and I really enjoyed actually Gargamel's role in it. I think he was the funniest to me. Yeah. There was a couple moments, I think, just with some of the way that he would treat things and the way that he would treat his... Some of them were a bit like, wow, that's animal abuse, kind of. It felt a little bad to laugh at, but I did like the way that he was treating the different interactions and the dynamic between a lot of the characters. I mean, a funny one to me was like, this was directed by one of the co-directors. We talked about this, the co-directors of Shrek 2. Yep. And one of the things that I love so much about Shrek 2 is that the humor was so, like, unexpected. There was just so many things that would happen. You're like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I would have never expected that. And there was a couple elements of that at play, like the scene where he's putting together the potion and he's like talking about all the different things that he's putting in there, and he goes, and hair of cat, and he jumps to the cat, and the cat's like, what? And he's like missing a chunk of hair. Yeah. Which again goes to the animal abuse thing. But it was funny. It was funny just because, you weren't really expecting it. The bads it was very, to me, childish in a lot of ways. Very elementary in a lot of ways. Very predictable plot. You kind of knew where it was going from the beginning all the way through to the end. There wasn't anything groundbreaking as far as theme. I think it was kind of a story of finding yourself and the value of friendship, which is very standard for like a kids type movie. But it was approached in a very obvious way of like, well, we just need to support each other and trust each other, and love wins the day, especially with the ending, the Fahudore type Dr. Seuss ending. So yeah, Matt, what are some of your thoughts? I've talked a lot here.
Yeah, no, I just was like, I kind of felt just meh overall. The big thing with this movie, it's definitely pointed towards a very young demographic, very juvenile. I didn't really find it funny. I giggled a couple times that like some of the things like I'd mentioned to you earlier. like some of the characterizations. That probably was my favorite part. I never really laughed out loud at anything, but I did kind of like, you know, like that was kind of a giggle worthy moment. Like Nosy, he has this moment where like he like pokes his head into a situation. He's like, well, what's going on here, guys?
Like, nothing.
And they're like, nothing. He's like, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Just stuff like that. I was like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Even at the very beginning when they're like introducing all the Smurfs, like one of the Smurfs says, "Hi, laundry Smurf." Like, they have their own
laundry
thing.
Yeah, the one that just I thought things like that were, and like the one that bites the table is like the table biting Smurf.
Yeah.
And then at the very end of the movie, they revisit that, and they're all dancing on the table, and you just see them there still biting the table. I mean, that kind of stuff is funny to me because it's unexpected.
Right. So the characterization stuff, like they put thought into that. That was funny, but the actual stuff that I felt like they were trying to like make funny wasn't There is a lot of slapstick humor stuff that I know my 5-year-old and my 3-year-old would absolutely love.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of one of those things where it didn't hit me. You know, I'm so used to seeing, I'm probably spoiled, but I'm so used to seeing animated films that cater to both the young and the older audience. And Pixar's kind of famous for that.
Pixar's good with that. DreamWorks can do it.
Yes,
well.
as of recently.
Yeah.
But it didn't hit. It's very much for an elementary crowd. The other side of it is, yes, the story was so vanilla, like even less. It was entirely predictable, where you know, oh, this is gonna be one of those things where they hold hands at the end and everything gets better.
Yeah, yeah. And what do you want to say? I saw it coming. I'm like, there's no way they're gonna do what they did and just leave that. I was gonna give it a lot of credit if they did go there.
Wow, that just got dark.
Yeah,
you
that
guys.
just got really dark. But you know, they didn't do that. So I think this is the first of 2 movies that Sony Pictures Animation is releasing for this year.
Okay.
The other one, which I'm just like, oh my! Every time I see it, I just get more and more upset.
What is
to
it?
the point where it's almost funny to me. The Emoji Movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which they played as a preview for this as a trailer for this film, and I'm just like, what is that? Woohoo! Where you know? So what I'll say is like, you know, maybe this is like this was their attempt to go with something a little bit, you know, trying to keep with an old premise, but you know, because that I will say the thing about the Emoji Movie is it is very random. I mean, I don't know anybody that would have thought like, let's make a movie out of the little like icons that you can put on your phone. You know what I mean? So maybe they're just trying some different stuff. I mean, it feels like with this film, they went away from they listened to their audience a little bit. They went away from the pushback that they got with the live action elements and the original Smurf type style stuff. And, you know, they listened to them. And I feel like if they had made this movie first, then it would have been a great kind of launching pad for it. But I feel like too little too late is a big part of it. And so overall, I mean, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. I was expecting, you know, a failure of a film to just die, you know, hate. I was going to hate it. Yeah. But yeah, I left feeling okay.
Well, what would you rate this thing?
On a scale of, doing the A to F thing, I'd probably put it about a 73, 74. So C minus range.
I would say if the goal for me, if the goal was specifically just to cater towards young kids and their demographic isn't for anybody older than 5th or 6th grade.
Yeah.
I would say that they've probably had a successful movie on their hands. And I would give it a C minus also, probably 70.
Gotcha.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to go 69%. And that's just because I gave
never time here.
Right. So I'm going to 69% D plus. And that's because I don't want to rate it the same that I rated Ghost in the Shell, because I like Ghost in the Shell a little bit better.
That's fair.
But
that's very fair. Well, and I just came off of seeing Boss Baby.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And I laughed at this one. I enjoyed this one more. I think I gave Boss Baby the D plus rating.
Yeah.
I laughed at this one more.
Okay.
And I thought it was more interesting, and it was more grounded.
Okay.
I think this one just felt,
It's so weird to hear you say. So this Smurf movie was so much more grounded in reality.
I'm not saying it was grounded, just more, a little bit more. I mean, hey, Matt, I mean, it's realistic. He throws balls and it causes people to freeze. It's a very realistic thing, you know, Matt? So, no, I'm just saying, like, I could relate to it. I could connect to it a little bit better.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. The world rules kind of fit. So, awesome.
The verisimilitude.
Verisimilitude. There you go.
So that is it for our review of Smurfs, The Lost Village. This next movie I actually did not get a chance to see. I was kind of interested in seeing what it was all about. Seems like it has a demographic audience of the opposite end of the age spectrum.
Yeah.
But Joel, you did get to see this movie.
did.
It's going in style, right?
Yes, going in style. And this movie stars 3 big names. And
Yeah.
that's kind of, I think, the big draw on it for a lot of people. Morgan Freeman, Michael Caine, Alan Arkin. The film is about a desperate group that is wanting to pay their bills and come through for their loved ones. And basically these 3 lifelong pals that I just mentioned risk it all by embarking on a daring bid to knock off a bank that has supposedly been the one to abscond with their money. So it's been directed by Zach Braff, which is a big shocker for me in a lot of ways. If you look at the movies he's made prior to this,
It's interesting.
yeah, most of his films have been very indie, very non-standard, non-linear type elements to the stories and the overall story arcs and everything. And this is probably the most studio-friendly film that I've seen Zach Braff make ever.
Oh, okay.
So it might be his attempt to kind of maybe win his relevancy back into, because he kind of went on a long hiatus of really not doing much of anything, directing wise. And so I'm thinking maybe he's trying to, and you mentioned he's got a couple other projects it looks like he's going to be spitting out of the next little while. So maybe it's kind of his way of saying like, hey, kiss the ring a little bit. I'm going to stop trying to do my own thing and kind of come into the fold a little bit and do some stuff that's a little bit more mainstream. And unfortunately, that's what you do see a lot of times with a lot of directors is in order to kind of get in to do the types of pictures that they want to do and get the notoriety that they want to get.
Yeah.
A lot of times they'll have to do, like Christopher Nolan is a great example of that. He did Insomnia, which isn't a bad film at all,
Right.
but it was very much his most studio film that he'd done, and that was kind of his first big one that he did. And then since then, he's had the ability to kind of do more.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that might be a little bit of what's going on at play here. The film itself, so to talk about the actual film, it wasn't a bad film. I think the best element that was at play with this film was the main cast of characters.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I think the relationship, Michael Caine, Alan Arkin, Morgan Freeman, they all have their own distinct personalities, their own flavor, and they did work very well with each other.
Right.
I did get the impression and did get the feel that these are definitely actors that have kind of past their prime in a lot of ways, and not to attack anybody of that age that's doing the acting thing, but it definitely felt a little bit flat at times with some of their acting.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of strong emotional depth to the characters, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There was a couple moments where they would kind of get upset, and there was a couple moments they kind of laugh with each other and have fun, but their characters were a little bit flat, but their relationship felt honest. Their relationship felt real, and it was, they felt like good characters.
Yeah.
I think the strongest personality out of all all 3 of them was Alan Arkin.
Oh, cool.
Because he kind of plays like this ticked off kind of. I don't
He's
know why,
good at
but-
playing a ticked off guy.
Right,
though.
yeah. And so that was kind of his big thing, and he did that the best. But even with him, it still felt kind of flat.
Okay.
It felt like he was like that, but it was just like, yeah, I'm gonna kind of do it. I think the film itself is very easily accessible. It's not the kind of film you're gonna go into and expect a lot. I mean, the first. Like the very beginning of the film, and I'll just talk about this a little bit. It's not spoiling too much, but they kind of open the film with this scene where Michael Caine is in the bank and he's trying to talk to them about his house is going to get foreclosed upon, and then the bank gets robbed by this group of 3 guys that are doing a really great job, and that kind of sets an emotion. So the reason for why he wants to do it, and not the reason for why, but his thinking that he could do it or should do it.
Okay.
And that scene was interesting because it felt very strange. It felt very off. There was a couple shots that were out of focus. There was actually a shot where they kind of, I don't know if you're familiar with you probably are, but the 180 rule.
Yeah.
They totally missed the 180 rule, and I'm like, whoa, what's going on here?
Weird.
And so just some random stuff were happening there. And the thing was, it's not an action movie. So I was kind of I was understanding and okay with the fact that they didn't really nail the opener. It just kind of fell a little flat for me. But then that kind of continued on throughout the rest of the course of the movie,
So
where
it never
everything
changed,
just
yeah.
it just kind of was like, okay. Everything was just like, okay, that's it. That is what it is. And there was some chuckles. I think the funniest moment of the entire movie was close to like the middle, which was very strange. So there's kind of this point in the movie where they all 3 decide that they want to, do the robbery, and they're gonna take care of that. And so in order to do that, they're trying to warm up to it and get familiar with it. But Alan, I'd say actually 2 of them have. Alan's kind of not quite there yet. It takes a little bit more for him to get on board. And so they go and they rob this store. And that's probably the funniest part.
Like a dry run?
Yeah, they give it a dry run. And it's like, it's this true value type store. It's like they're putting this stuff in their clothes and they're trying to run away. And they get in like they get in like an electric golf cart and they're like running down the road, or not electric shopping cart.
Okay.
You know what I mean? They're riding down the road and he's like, throwing flour on her to get her like, make her not be able to see them and stuff. The police officer that's chasing them from the store security. So that was like the funniest part. And the funny thing was, like, as soon as that was like the high point.
Okay.
And then from that point on, it just kind of felt very flat. It actually kind of felt like a little lower, up to the point where they do the robbery, and then the robbery was kind of okay. It didn't last super long. And I think there was also an element that was in play. There's one of these characters that was in the film, and he was like I think one of the worst over actors that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Really?
Not my entire life, but at least in this scene, he's one of the bank manager guys.
Okay.
And he's just like, he is just going crazy in the scene. And I feel like if they'd taken his role and like taken a bit of his energy,
rolled it back a little bit,
and rolled it back and like put that into the other three actors, then that would have like made the film a little bit more. I think if that was the big thing for me, is if I felt like the main three characters, the cast of characters, had kind of been more sold on it and been more committed to it and felt stronger about the elements that were going on, then it would have probably had a bit more of an interest to me. It's very straightforward. You know what's going to happen from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies that you could, like, on a weekend, or like if you're just lackadaisically at home and you turn it on, you can just kind of zone out to it and not really think about it. It's just kind of happening. I think the older demographic will probably love the movie and probably really enjoy it. For what it is, because they do approach it in a very, if like three older guys were actually going to rob a bank, I mean, that's probably how it would go down.
So you're saying it's more grounded in reality than Smurfs?
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Much more grounded, Matt. Come on now. But so it works, but that also makes it kind of boring, you know?
Right.
And again, nothing against, I have a grandma still. I had grandparents and I love old people, but nobody thinks that, like, with an older person that they're like the most exciting. You know what I mean?
Right.
You're not going to take an old person and go clubbing or something. And that kind of now I'm visualizing this, but that kind of transposes itself into the films, into the characters, into the acting. And so I think if there'd just been a little bit more energy to those roles, then that would have been fine. So,
interesting.
Any thoughts, any questions, Matt?
No, I think how you're describing it is exactly how I pictured it to be.
Yeah.
Interesting about some of the like the 180 role, but with that group of people, I think it's first of all, I think it's really cool, to see the three actors and main guys, they were great just together. I had actually heard, it's kind of funny, from a fellow reviewer that. This is kind of like the third movie in a Morgan Freeman "I'm About to Die" trilogy.
Oh, that is true. Yeah.
So he was in the
Las
Vegas in the bucket list.
The bucket list. Yeah, that's true.
That's kind of hilarious.
Hopefully, that's not a sign of things to come. I mean, the thing is, in the film, that is funny actually. The film, he's like, I'm gonna die pretty soon, and he was actually on the cusp of dying. So,
my gosh.
Hopefully hopefully, I mean, I don't want to spoil anything with the film, obviously, but like. Hopefully he's not doing that on purpose. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know. Clint Eastwood made his last Western movie, and in that movie, he's playing this old man and it won a bunch of awards, but like he's playing this old man that's kind of like, dying and has to fight this final battle and everything like that. And I remember hearing about that movie and thinking even at my age, like, hopefully that doesn't mean that like he's really going to die or something like that. And he didn't, he lived on. He's made some great movies afterwards. So hopefully there's like 15, 20, 30 years left of these careers. So I
think what I might end up doing is checking this out on a rainy day at home. Yeah. When nothing else is going on. Yeah, it's not gonna redefine cinema. It's not gonna like reclassify what this type of film could be or anything. It just really feels like it's just a very simple film you'll giggle a couple times and kind of go, that was nice. You think the older demographic would enjoy it more? Yeah, I think mainly because it probably is very relatable. Okay. And again, that's not meant as an attack against anybody. Right. For our older demographic that's listening to our podcast. But it's just made to be, they come across as very relatable elderly people. And so I think for an elderly audience, that would be very relatable. Cool. Well, nice. What would you rate this thing? So on a scale of, the A to F again, I'd probably put this a little higher than Smurfs. I'd probably put it, I don't know, probably around a 75. Okay. 76. Cool. Still a C though. Solid C. Solid C. There you go. Well, that rounds out our review of Going in Style. I want to take the next couple minutes because I actually did get a chance to see Life.
Yes, this is a follow-up.
It's a follow-up. We talked about it last week, and
Right.
you saw it. I didn't get a chance to see it. I really wanted to see it because it kind of had like some horror vibes, and that's kind of my jam. And so I got a chance to see it. First thing I'd say, I felt like it was a little less than a horror. Than it was more of a thriller.
It had horrific elements.
Yes.
But not a horror.
Not a horror movie. Because I don't think there was a single time where I was like jumping in my seat, you know.
There was one scene, I think, where I jumped.
Okay.
Yeah,
so maybe
with the thing coming out of the...
Yeah.
I don't know what's anything.
So I really liked it. I really liked Life. I will say that I enjoyed how the... First of all, I like the way that it was filmed.
Yeah.
You had mentioned in the last one how there was this one shot at the beginning, and that was really great, actually.
Yeah, the one shot is spectacular. I've
yeah.
actually heard a lot of people complimenting it for that as well.
Yeah. And I think it's effective and it introduces you to everybody, kind of what their roles are. You get a little bit of background, a little bit. And at the same time, you get a sense of the claustrophobic feel of the space station.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of almost introducing the space station as a character, so you can kind of, because you're going to be there for the next hour and a half or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I thought just the way that it was filmed looked really cool. Everything was very eerie, cold, and dark, and it made me feel like I was in space.
Yeah, for me, it reminded me most of the movie Gravity.
Right. Yeah, I did have that vibe. I did like the alien design, the space octopus. I thought was really. I thought that design was cool.
Yeah, there's some people. Keep going. I want to ask you specifically about the alien design.
I think if the CG would have been worse, it would have been bad. But I thought the CG was pretty good on it.
The thing, I totally agree with that aspect. The thing that I've heard a lot of people having more of an issue with is actually in the later portions of the film.
Mm-hmm.
So the alien goes through a couple iterations.
Right.
I don't want to spoil anything, obviously, but
he levels up.
Right? He gets more powerful,
Yeah.
and certain appendages and things start to get added to the alien, would pop out of somewhere.
Right.
What I heard a lot of people complaining about the sort of the third stage version of the alien. I'm just gonna say he has a face, right? And so there was a lot of people that felt that was a bit of a disservice. Like they just had to add the face to this creature to make it somehow more imposing, because it can exist and live without the face. We've seen it grow and become more,
right.
You know, it can feed and everything by absorbing the energy that's around it, absorbing the liquids and stuff around it. So, I mean, did you have any feelings on that?
No, I thought it was totally fine.
All right.
Like I said, if they set it up really well at the beginning.
Yeah.
How basically this thing could, like before it even becomes into an actual shape, how they say it can, it could create different limbs. It can go, it could basically do whatever it wants.
It's like an octopus. It can squish itself really tight. I mean, it's really hard to kill because, like an octopus, you can, not that you should, but you could chop off a tentacle and it would, keep doing its octopus thing. Again, not that you should.
So the one negative side I would say to this film is I cared for the characters, the actors, because they were the only people in the film. There wasn't really a lot of people.
Right.
But even like the main character, let's say the main character is Jake Gyllenhaal and Rebecca Ferguson.
Yeah.
I cared for them, but not as like I wasn't super emotionally attached to them.
Yeah.
So I would say that with everybody in the movie, as people died, I was like, ooh, that was crazy.
Yeah.
But, they're dead. Okay, so hopefully these other people let's see what they can do,
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think part of the reason that was harder to connect, we talked a bit about this before we started the podcast, but part of the reason it was just difficult for me to connect with them in a deeper way is because the decisions that they made, and this is fine, but the decisions that they made were very clinical in nature. They were very like scientific method, like this means that means that, we have to do this because of procedure and da-da-da, and that's fine.
And they were maybe uncharacteristically selfless.
Right. Exactly.
Anti-human.
Right. Again, that's fine. But when you see people, suffering because of those poor decisions, it feels weird because it's like, well, these people are trying to do the right thing and they're dealing with it. And this isn't a horror film. It's more of a suspense action film. So if it's a horror film, then that would make more sense. Because in horror films, everybody dies, whether they're doing the right thing, whether they're doing the wrong thing.
Right.
You don't want to see the people that are doing the right thing die. So that was one thing that made it hard to deal with. I think if the most relatable moment for me was like Jake Gyllenhaal's scene where he's like trying to get his girlfriend, I guess, whatever she was, to sort of come back into the spaceship, and she doesn't want to go in there because he's making the wrong decision.
Yeah.
And that felt very human.
Yep.
Whereas outside of that, everything else felt very clinical and very procedural and very lacking of human reality. And so you don't get a chance to really connect with them as people. And so again, I understand why they were making clinical decisions, but if you can't relate to them as a person, then it's harder to like empathize with the things that they're going through.
So yeah, and that's entirely true. And there, you could argue that even the initial guy, the main like guy who was interacting with it up front, was making some of those human errors. But I
a couple of them do.
Right.
You
so
know what I mean?
I keep feeling like this movie gets praised for the cast making the non-traditional like horror thriller like dumb decisions.
Yeah.
Which I agree with to an extent. I also agree with your part too, but maybe another one or two like dumb decisions would have.
I don't even need to have a dumb decision. I need to have a selfish decision.
Okay,
like somebody doing something just because they want to do it.
Right.
Because people are, unfortunately, we're all selfish people, and we kind of do some things sometimes just for our own sake.
Right.
It would have made them more relatable.
There's one scene in particular where this is a great explanation of that, like the dumb horror movie decisions. He's hiding in like a sleep chamber.
Yeah.
And the alien like goes away, and like in every horror movie, the person, whether it be like a person hiding in a closet or hiding somewhere, what the first thing they do is they're gone, and then they poke their head out, and then the bad guy's still there. So there's an instance of that where that decision doesn't happen, and you're like, oh, I like that.
Well, so that was the thing that I had a problem with that scene, is that scene, it came across to me almost like, I don't know if he made that on purpose, because I don't know if he did that on accident.
No, I feel like he did do it on purpose.
But I don't know. And because the thing was, he couldn't feel that portion of his body. He had no sensation there.
No, that's a different guy.
Oh, you're talking about a different guy.
I'm talking about the guy in the pod.
Oh,
sleep
that.
pod.
Yes, that was great.
He goes to push a green button. He's like, nope.
Yep, that was very great.
Yeah.
Except, here's the thing. That whole idea of there being rules, and they've set up throughout the entire rest of the movie that these people are going to make the right decision for the right reason at the right time. And so it was really uncharacteristic for him then at that point for me, for him to suddenly decide, well, I'm just going to do this completely stupid thing and just come out of my pod here.
He didn't, though. That's what I'm telling you.
What are you talking about then?
I think you're talking about a different scene.
There's like
dude.
two different scenes that I'm talking about here. One is where there's an alien hiding on a person.
Yeah, that's not that.
And then the other one was a person hiding from an alien inside of something.
Yes, but as soon as the thing... Okay, so we're going on a tangent here, but that's totally okay. So...
I'm going to cut like 75% of this
Right. So he's there, and the alien's there, and it's like squeezing around the thing, and it's like... And it's kind of like, stress, and then it goes away, and then he like goes to like release, get out of the pod. He doesn't.
Right, that made sense to me.
Right, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but later...
Because there was a hole... Later he gets out because there's a hole in it.
No, he doesn't get out because of the hole. He realizes that there's another ship docking, and he wants to go over to that other ship. And so he gets out because he's like, I'm going to go home and see my daughter. And he's even talking about his daughter as he's getting out of there.
Okay, we're going to have to talk about this
again.
We'll
have to break it down later.
We'll have to watch it. We're going to take a break right now. We're going to watch the movie again, and then we'll come back and finish.
All right, that sounds great. All right, and we watched it. All right,
okay,
we're back, everybody. Yeah. No, I'm just kidding. We can move on.
No, and that's totally fine. We're done here. But if I had to rate this thing, I liked it a lot. I give it an 85. I think if I were invested more in the characters, I would have even rated it higher, but I would give it an 85, so I'll be.
Yeah, and I think we can agree on the fact that there was just some there was some missed opportunity for characterization.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
We can disagree and agree on certain scenes and how they played out, but either way, we feel the same on that metric.
It's all good. So that is it. That is it for our reviews.
Cool. I'm gonna eat my red vines now.
Yes, you eat your red vines. We are unofficially sponsored by them and LaCroix.
And I'm gonna try not to chew into the mic because it sounds really awful.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
But if you haven't had a chance to find us on the social medias, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Real Review Media, and that's REEL as in film reel or fishing reel, whatever you want to call it. Find us. Also our website, email us, let us know if you have any questions, if you disagree with us, if you agree with us, whatever it may be.
All right.
Do that, make it happen. Anything else you'd like to add?
I'm good. Got my red vine.
We're good. Got your red vine?
You want one? There you go.
Yeah, I'll take a red vine.
All
cool.
right.
Sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and it's been real.
It's been real.